It's incredible where you can go in your imagination. Hitch a ride on a cloud or go... No, screwed it up. Well, I've always liked music. I think most people do, actually. Music means good luck to me, among many other things, but I love that I've had a chance to write music partly for a living and largely for fun, that's also helping people. It's incredible where you can go in your imagination.
Christopher Cerf is a composer for Sesame Street. His music helps to teach young children how to read and write. For 40 years, he's been working for the famous children's television show. During this time, he's written more than 200 songs.
There's a rainbow of beautiful colors waiting for you.
For his work, Christopher has won many awards. In the show, the quirky Sesame Street residents like Ernie or Big Bird sing his songs. The lyrics are to do with magic numbers, strange words, or the names of the colors. But these innocent children's songs were abused for inhumane purposes. In 2003, it transpired that the US Army tortured detainees with Sesame Street music for days.
Now, my first reaction was, this can't possibly be true. This is just too crazy. And it was absurd. But of course, I didn't really like the idea that I was helping break down prisoners. But it was much worse when I heard later that they were actually using the music in Guantanamo to actually do deep, long-term interrogations, and obviously to inflict enough pain on prisoners so they would talk.
After terrorists had attacked the US on September the 11th, 2001, the government struck back immediately. The global war on terror began. Worldwide, US soldiers and their allies rounded up as many suspects as possible to interrogate them. They were not exactly squeamish in dealing with the detainees. These images sparked worldwide outrage in 2004. They show how US soldiers abuse Iraqi detainees in Bagram prison. Until recently, this document was top secret. It's a guideline for interrogation methods compiled by the Office of Medical Services of the American Secret Service, the CIA. The medical specialists carefully describe the torture procedures CIA agents are allowed to use during interrogations. They focus on methods that leave no visible traces on the prisoners, such as noise and loud music. Permitted noise levels are as follows: music as loud as the noise of a highway for 18 hours a day, at the volume of a cranked-up motorbike for 8 hours, as loud as a truck engine at full throttle for 4 hours, and as loud as a jackhammer for 2 hours. Human rights groups fought in court for the publication of these torture guidelines. Still, most of the pages look like this. For reasons of national security, the government says. But for human rights researchers such as Thomas Keenan, they still form a clear picture of what musical torture methods were used.
Prisoners were forced to put on headphones. They were attached to chairs. Headphones were attached to their head, and they were left alone just with the music for very long periods of time, sometimes hours, even days on end, listening to repeated, loud music. Music was being used at Guantanamo, at Bagram, in Kabul and Afghanistan, and in any number of hidden sites.
Music as torture. This absurd idea troubles Christopher so much that he's decided to go on a journey to find out more about how and why music is used in this way.
This is fascinating to me because of the horror of music being perverted to serve evil purposes, if you like. But I'm also interested in how that's done. What is it about music that would make it work for that purpose? I also want to sort of learn about why anybody would even think of doing something like that. I'm not really so troubled that my songs got used. It's the idea that they're torturing people at all, and I really feel pretty strongly about it. It seems really incredible to me that America would be torturing prisoners at all. After all, we've fought wars in the past against countries who do that to try to get them to stop doing it. So the idea that we would be doing it ourselves to save our own freedom is very ironic.
Christopher's first stop is Chicago. Here he wants to meet a soldier who served as a prison guard in Guantanamo for 9 months. Chris Arendt was only 19 years old when he witnessed how prisoners were tortured with music. He finally left the army and started to criticize their methods publicly. Now, aged 23, he is unemployed and homeless.
Well, Chris, I've been really interested in coming to talk to you because some of my music even might have been used down there. Did you ever see music being used at Guantanamo?
Oh, yeah. It was in the Gold Building. I mean, music would just blast out of that room. It's like they had a whole concert. It was like it was like a dance club style music system that they had set up, just rocking in this room with all just kind of like American, rock music. You leave somebody in there for a couple hours like that in a stress position. I've seen interrogations go on for 10, 12 hours. I worked 12-hour shifts, and several times I came in right at the beginning of my shift and moved a detainee into an interrogation booth and then didn't ever for the rest of that day move that person out. And sometimes it was like 2 songs playing against each other, completely off tempo, just like blaring, say this rock music with like a Johnny Cash song against each other.
And they played them both in the same room, to the same guy.
Yeah. The whole interrogation thing seems so weird. They focus so much on using things that weren't necessarily... I guess I just had such amped up expectations of what torture was that when I saw torture as, listening to music and stressful positions, I think like most people, it just didn't really strike me. And I think my head had a hard time working around why that was really torture. But then, I came to realize it's, these are just really insidious psychological techniques that are being utilized, and it's not, it's not the torture of like a movie. We don't have people wired up to racks, and we don't have, we're not pulling out toenails. What we are doing is leaving them in really uncomfortable positions on the floor in the cold for hours and hours and hours listening to music that's way too loud, that they hate on many cultural bases, you know, just things to piss them off and break them down. But I think that most of them were already pretty broken. I don't know how effective these things were, because I think that just being in the cage alone had already broken a lot of people.
You feel it really changed your life?
Definitely.
For the worse.
For a long time, these feelings of, you know, this guilt, these feelings that this was wrong, weighed on me very heavily, because I think that this was a really huge wake-up call for me, and I don't know if I would have wanted to continue to be in my self-centered little American bubble.
Was there one thing in particular? Was it the war itself, or was it what you had to do, or both, that made you feel this way?
It's all those things. It's all of them together. It's that my experience in this one place was so horrible, but this one place is just, I mean, really just the smallest tip of the iceberg. The awareness of the amount of injustice that's going on in this war, to me, is totalizing. It doesn't allow me room to think about anything else.